Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup, and we've got a decently sized week. Not as, uh, not necessarily as many, but close to as the last few. But, anyways, let's get started, shall we? Kicking things off with Marauders number 23. Where we'd left off, the Marauder itself had been destroyed and, or had been knocked out of commission outside of Madripoor. And the Stepford Cuckoos had taken Verendi member Wilhelmina Kensington to potentially deal with her issues with her father. The issue begins with Emma waking up after the gala and basically having quite a bit to deal with. The Scarlet Witch is dead. The Marauder is all but destroyed. Krakoa medicines are in temporary short supply. And Banshee calls her. Apparently he's dealing with some of the new Verendi Reavers in Ireland. And he fills her on how he ended up being there. He was called by an old Leo friend of his, and in Ireland went through the gate. Turns out some organized crime syndicates were there to get the basically to get the medicines that that they are supposed to get for their per their agreement with the Hellfire Club. Basically, they're the black marketeers. But then the Reavers showed up and just started attacking everybody and threw in a bomb. So, Emma hastily assembled a team consisting of herself, Jumbo Carnation, Kate, and Tempo. And let's just say that Jumbo Carnation is quite capable of fucking shit up. Tempo basically is told to deal with the bomb. Really, all she can do at the moment, since it's, as she states from her days at the Mutant Liberation Front, it can't be moved or disarmed. So really, all she can do is just slow it down. Meanwhile, and Emma also suggests that the black marketeers leave. But Jumbo and Kate deal with the Reavers. Kate steps away to make sure that Tempo does not have to go through resurrection protocols. Turns out one of the Black Marketeers, his mother is in dire straits medically, and well, Emma tells him that or his nana, so I believe that would be actually quite likely his grandmother, is in dire straits medically speaking, but she states that she'll make sure that she's sorted through the shortage. To which the Black Marketeers asked who Emma wants them to kill for her. Meanwhile, the Cuckoos are in London with Wilhelmina, and they've gone to visit her father. The Cuckoos also informed all of Wilhelmina's father's neighbors what he did to her. And which leads to her father jumping out of a window. But of course, London is not exactly mutant friendly at the moment, as they're about to be getting rid of all the gates in London, and they've also reversed course on their Krakoan treaty. Back in Madripoor, Wilhelmina decides that she's done with Burundi and suggests that being mad at someone else's successes in a life worth living, and she suggests that Cade Kilgore do the same thing, and also tells him to not contact her again. And then the issue ends with a excerpt from St. John Allardyce's new romance novel, The Secret Ties of Salt Wives. For those unaware, Pyro, St. John Allardyce, actually is, canonically speaking, a romance novelist. He's got a new one out. It should also be stated that there was a very excellent mention of tempo on the beginning of the issue about how her gifts are wasted just aging whiskey. Not to knock the whiskey or anything, but she can do so much more than just that. Which I agree. And Kate also agrees and even offers a spot on the Marauders. And while Tempo did say definitely no, at the moment, no. But a solid issue. Marauders is always... Marauders is probably... Marauders has the gift of consistency. At the very least, it is it's going to be good. Sometimes it's great, but I don't think it has yet gone to a point of not good. Good, better, great, yeah. Not good, no, actually, it's been, like I said, consistency. Next up, we've got Way of X number 5. Where we'd left off, Legion, while trying to discuss the reappearance of Onslaught with Xavier, detected Onslaught's psionic presence and had the Zorns kill everyone in the Green Lagoon except for themselves and, well, Legion. But it seems all of the younger mutants have an idea of having a party. A party that they intend to call Crucible. Xavier goes to talk to Legion. He's very clearly disappointed, but Legion is honestly busy trying to take care of Onslaught, psionically speaking, while Kurt is trying to force Fabian Cortez and Lost to put aside their differences. And in Cortez's case also, maybe try and be a decent mutant. We then get the full name of the book, the philosophical text that Nightcrawler will be writing, The Book of the Spark. But among other things, Charles does make a point of asking Legion not to return to Earth, and also that if when he dies again, he will likely not be put through the resurrection protocols. But the things between Lost and Cortez get so bad that while they're fighting above Araco, that Phobos gets pulled out of orbit, and there's nothing can truly be done about it as it comes closer and closer to the planet. And so we get a note on the Phobos incident that almost was, And we discover that well, Nightcrawler is the one who actually saved the day after getting an insane boost from Cortez. Meanwhile, Legion has realized just how it is that Onslaught's been able to get it to infect everyone. Those little bits of memory between the point of being as he puts it, eating the offcuts, the wee bits of lost life experience between when you get recorded and when you die. As stated, quite a few mutants have, everyone's gone through resurrection protocols. They tend to lose a little bit of time. Note where Siren, when she was having issues with the Morgan a while back, part of that was due to her. One of the things that was brought up was the fact that the 2 times that she offed herself during that were between recordings. So even if when she was resurrected, the backup wouldn't have the reasoning for either death. So, yeah. But as mentioned, Cortez supercharges Nightcrawler. And he basically teleports Phobos back into its proper orbit. And of course, he's left Cortez with instructions when he's resurrected. Find me and say the following to me. However, when he's resurrected, he's reminded about what happened. Part of what trying to bring Lost and Cortez together on Mars, but he asked for it. So Nightcrawler asked where Cortez is, and it seems his brain is just switched off. Nothing so far has worked. Healer suggests euthanizing and resurrecting him as the simplest option. Though Xavier maybe doesn't. At the very least, if he's to be euthanized and resurrected, it will be it's going to be a while, as there are others on the queue, and as Cortez is somewhat to blame for what happened, well, maybe it's best to not resurrect him this time. With Xavier saying to Kurt that it's cliche, but you can't save them all. And it seems everyone's preparing for the Crucible, and we see an basically energy imprints of Onslaught over practically everyone. At least all those who've been resurrected. And that is where the issue ends. It's also, as far as I can tell, the last issue of the series, and the whole story will be wrapped up in a one-shot, I believe, entitled The Onslaught Revelation. We're at least it's building towards something. I'll say that much about it. I still think it's actually kind of neat bringing in Onslaught. It was honestly a surprise. I wouldn't have thought that Onslaught would be a character that would ever be brought back, except it went for Jeff Loeb and Rob Liefeld to stroke their egos. But hey, at least this is an interesting way to do it, and it does come at an interesting point in time, and all things considered, with the reputation of mutant kind and what Onslaught did to that reputation 25 years ago, yeah, good timing. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got X-Corp number 4. Where we left off at the Technology Talks Expo, X-Corp was set to unveil their ionospheric ionospheric bandwidth generator. However, there was sabotage afoot, and one of Badrox's dupes was killed trying to make sure it actually worked. However, it seems that the demonstration is going swimmingly, because board member Jason Wingard is giving everyone the illusion that it's working perfectly. We then flashback to earlier, Mastermind and Celine discussing things and realizing that something is definitely up, and then Jean-Pierre Cole of what was that other company's name? Noblesse, the Noblesse CEO, has likely got a few things up his sleeve. Also, we of course meet back up with Monet, who's had basically an anti-mutant drug given to her by Sarah St. John in the present. Oh, back in the present. But yeah, Celine takes out her psychic damper and gives her a taste of just what she might end up having to deal with, of horribleness, basically. But so yeah, Celine saves Monet and basically demands the board seat in return. Turns out that the four mutants in charge of creating the ionospheric bandwidth generator, well, yeah, they were able to take down the infiltration team. After all, Bishop, Sunspot, Vulcan, and Neil Shara, yeah, yes, that's definitely to do the trick. But Mastermind kind of says, "Hey, not to complain or nothing, but I'm going to need a bit of a break from this doing this illusion at some point soon. So if you could get it working, please do." But they get it working, and the following Monday they have a discussion about the whole thing. And Warren explains this is how the board is going to work. But Monet makes a suggestion. Why not go and find out who the rest of the shareholders of Noblesse are, buy them out, then we own a majority of Noblesse, and then we proceed to buy out Jean-Pierre Cole. It's voted on. And it turns out that it was pretty much already done over the weekend. But we find that the board is definitively now Warren, Monet, Celine, Madrox, and Mastermind. Also, Trinary's board offered board seat is rescinded. If there's an open one later, she might have it offer. It might be offered to her again, but we'll see. But they'll see. Warren and Monet end up having a fight in the executive lounge, which is basically a danger room. But turns out while they're having their little fight, Jean-Pierre Cole and some other mercenaries have arrived. As Cole now feels he has nothing to lose, they basically assault the X-Corp headquarters. And among the first casualties is the Prime Madrox, who's shot in the chest. Of course, this does cause Monet and Warren to stop their fight to see, oh, we're being invaded. And that is where the issue ends. It's a good issue. It's clear that they're really trying to emphasize the differences in styles with Monet and Warren. Old school and new school, so to speak. Anyway, but, I will admit I'm kind of glad X-Corp's just a miniseries. Once it reaches its conclusion, it's like, yeah. Well, I'm afraid we'll likely not be seeing much of Madrox afterwards because, well, like, hey, that's where he's at. Well, one can hope, right? Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Trial of Magneto, #1. So, at the Hellfire Gala, the Scarlet Witch went to visit Magneto and was then found dead. We open with a quote from the Scarlet Witch. Immortality is just a life sentence with a more pleasant veneer. Everlasting life is terrestrial purgatory. Okay. X Factor is attempting to investigate, or is trying to figure out what happened, while members of X-Force and the new X-Men team are kind of supervising. But Rachel's able to do some chrono skimming, sees sees her run off, but does not see anyone running after her or restraining her. During the autopsy, Iboy explains that while, yes, there is blood under Wanda's fingernails, which would imply that, she managed to do, get some defensive wounds against the, defensively, or she managed to injure her attacker. It's actually her blood under her nails. So, the chrono skimming shows that she wasn't using her magic to fight back against the killer because the killer had used metal to bind her hands behind her. It's looking, and everything is really pointing towards one suspect, Magneto, who at that time is at the Quiet Council, basically asking for the resurrection protocols to be bent to allow for Wanda to be resurrected. And Charles actually mentions that there are backups for Wanda and Pietro since they managed to fool Cerebro for so long. Mystique kind of goads him a bit, goads Magneto a bit, implying that maybe he wants Wanda resurrected so immediately because, well, what is it that they might find in their investigation? In the end, they vote against bringing her. It's the majority of the council vote against resurrecting her. Magneto attacks the council. Some of them, at least, but Kate is the one that stopped Magneto by basically sticking her hand in his head and informing him that if he doesn't stop, she will pull his brainstem out like Twizzler. But some of the mutants are celebrating the death of the Pretender. The X-Men go to deal with Magneto, mainly to question him, but yeah, he's not in a talkative mood. But something strange is happening with Wanda's body. There's been a massive amount of plant growth around it, and Speed, one of her sons, can't get into his brother Wicked because of something going on out up in space. And kind of realizes that he probably doesn't even realize that Wanda's dead. Xavier informs the Avengers as to what's happened, but somehow Wanda's favorite flower is now growing from one of the gates. Or the gate in Manhattan. The attack on Magneto is, when Magneto basically says that no, he's not going to answer X-Men's questions. The gathered X-Men attack. Including Polaris. And everyone gets brought. Basically, every attacking X-Men gets, at least temporarily taken down until another attacker or another person arrives. Quicksilver, who at super speed brutally beats on Magneto until North Star pulls him off, and basically, I was like, hey, look, I know, I get it, okay? Your sister wasn't well. Trust me, I've been there, bud. I've been there. She needed help. She did, But, Magneto's in a coma, and Jean tries to see if she can figure out what happened by getting in his head, but no. At the Green Lagoon, there's a toast held by Blob, Quicksilver, Toad, and Mastermind to simpler times, the good old days, as it were. But however, there's narration about the whole thing. Turns out it's from Wanda. And while she knows she was killed, she also knows that she is not dead. And that is where the issue ends. An interesting start, and I'm not going to lie, my initial theory is probably way off then. My initial theory as to who was responsible was Mystique. Made sense to me. Mystique does it to piss off Magneto, or to get Magneto in trouble, and this would lead into Inferno. But I'm not really sure about that now. I think it's still possible, but we'll just have to see. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we go from the island of Krakoa to a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away with Star Wars: War of the Bounty Hunters number 3. Actually, a holdover from last week, as well. It was late arriving. Where we left off in War of the Bounty Hunters, while Jabba the Hutt had bid 1 million credits on Han Solo, Vader showed up and said, "Nope, I'm taking Solo." Practically everyone's there on Jakara. Boba talks with the rebels. Dr. Aphra and Sana try to do what they can to make their escape because, well, Aphra does not want to be seen by Vader. But Chewie and Boba Fett have a bit of a fight. And Vader basically explains that to Jabba the Hutt that Yeah, okay, sure. He may have won the. He may have had the winning bid, but in all honesty, Jabba, everyone there, the ship, the planet, the sector, the Empire, and everything in it belongs to the Emperor. While Chewie and Boba have their fight, Vader explains he senses the fear in everyone, and the fight between Chewie and Boba is ended fairly quickly when Boba Fett uses flamethrower to set Chewie on fire. Lando puts out the fire with his cape. Leia almost shoots at Boba with her blaster, but he knocks her aside. And so he's just trying to make a living. And he'll stay out of their way if they stay out of his. But the only person standing between Darth Vader and Han Solo now is Lady Kira, who basically says, "Okay, fine. Pay us $1 million credit. $1 million credits is the winning bid. You pay us that. Han Solo is all yours." She asks when Vader says, "No." She says, she asks if the Empire is too poor to pay us this or too cheap. And she pulls out a pair of, not lightsabers, but something similar. And proceeds to have a duel with Vader. Apparently she knows the martial art of Taras Kasi, which they mentioned Taras Kasi in canon now. For those unaware, Taras Kasi was a martial art that was created for a Star Wars fighting game in the 90s called, fittingly enough, Star Wars Masters of Taras Kasi. It's actually a really fun game. It's it's a late 90s 3D fighting game with Star Wars characters. It's fun. But yeah. Of course, since she does not have force abilities, Vader does have a bit of an advantage. But she drops some small thermal detonators out of one of the sword hilts, and then turns it into a staff. And Boba's about to take a shot at Vader, but then he remembers Cloud City and the fact that when Han shot at Vader, Vader's gonna hold up his hand like, yeah, no, and give me that. So yeah, no. But Vader goes on a bit of a rampage. And then he senses something, though. A presence. Skywalker. And yes, Luke's arriving. Which manages to save Lady Kira's life. But Vader's ordered the Executor to set up a comm channel between Luke and himself. And he says that I know you're near. I can sense you. We have unfinished business. We're Captain Solo, and you're ready to lie with Cartwright. Come to me. Come to me, and if you don't, I'm going to cut Han in half. And that is where the issue ends. Which brings us to our next book, and the last book for this video, Star Wars number 16. Where we left off in the last issue of Star Wars, Luke was getting close to Jakara, in preparation for, to join Lando, Leia, and Chewie at the Crimson Dawn shindig. While in hyperspace, he's thinking about his duel with Vader from the end of Empire Strikes Back. And he starts thinking about some of the things he'd do, how, if he were in a dueling Vader again, what he would do differently. But he's still fairly certain that he'd lose to Vader badly. And so he tries to get advice from Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan's not responding. He can't get. He claims he can barely touch the Force. He can feel it, but it's like it's just static. Can't reach out to Ben. Something in the way. He thinks he knows what it is. Fear. During Vader and Kira's duel, Lando and Leia are discussing what's going on, and Lando kind of says, "This is probably going to be a wash." Okay, there's no way we're gonna get to Han during all this. Like, I know, and here's the thing: Chewie agrees with Lando on that one. It's like, we're kind of screwed. But Luke arrives in the system, sees the Executor. Admiral Piet is informed of an X-Wing's presence, sends out TIE fighters. But Luke notices, a lot of the ships here are from crime syndicates. So he flies close up to one of them so that the TIEs accidentally, so the fighter or blaster fire from the TIE fighters hits their ship, and so they turn their weapons on the TIE fighters as well, and the Executor blasts them out of space. And it's about the Executor is about to turn its attention to Luke when Vader sends his order of a channel between him and the pilot and the X-Wing pilot. And we see Luke's reaction to Vader's offer, what Vader says. Complete with a vision of himself falling down the shaft and Bespin cut in half. But Leia also gets on her comm to call Leia, saying that, they need Luke because Vader's going to kill Han, but Luke says that he's sorry, but he's not ready to face Vader. And that is where the issue ends. I gotta say, War of the Marauders is finally actually starting to feel like an actual crossover. Not just a story with tangentially related stories in other books. So it's actually getting good. I'm really loving it, and I know what it's building to. I've seen Return of the Jedi more times than I can count. So Anyway, that's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.